Scott, no offense, but does this gentleman have a first name? Weird not to have his first name. It's nowhere on there.
First name is Doctor.
All right. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Rutledge, author of 3 Billion and Counting, which is all about the banning of DDT. Dr. Rutledge, how are you, sir?
I am well. How are you guys?
Good. Do you have a first name?
I do. Well, that's my middle name. I go by Dr. Rutledge. Last name is Taylor.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's like a Dr. Oz or a Dr. Nick.
That's right.
Anyway, well, welcome to the show.
What's DDT? That's a bug killer?
Yeah, DDT was a pesticide that was banned back in 1972.
Now, I was a youngster back then, but I read the paper a lot. I was a weird little kid. I remember the argument being, it was doing terrible damage to the environment, and we all want clean water, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us about the original banning. How did that come about?
I know. I thought that too. When you look at the data and everything, they put on a big campaign, and it was all about money and power. So what happened? The environmental movement began originally for nuclear testing, and that was a great thing because they were doing all kinds of nuclear testing out in California, Nevada. But then they moved on to pesticides, and Rachel Carson came onto the scene and wrote her novel, Silent Spring. And that was a lot about pesticides, and she brought awareness to people about pesticides and came up with a lot of scary scenarios and things. In fact, the editor of Newsweek magazine at the time was a co-editor, and he signed off saying, I don't want any part of this because we're leading Americans to think the world is being poisoned. So at that time, the Audubon Society and Environmental Defense Fund brought a suit to start banning DDT. All kinds of studies were coming out. They had an agenda. What they found, and this is quoted by Dr. Charles Worcester, he said, if we develop a power over the chemical industry, we will have a power we have never had. And that's what they did. If you want to take out someone in war, you go for the king. And DDT was the king because it had saved so many lives. It had prevented so many.
How did it save lives?
What's that?
How was DDT saving lives?
It has prevented the National Academy of Sciences in 1970 said that DDT had prevented over 500 million deaths with its use.
From how?
From malaria, from all kinds of vector-borne diseases.
Yeah, killing mosquitoes, essentially.
Yeah, mosquitoes, yeah. Anything that a bug transmits, even Lyme's disease.
So now the claim...
Plague, in World War II, soldiers were dying more from vector-borne diseases than they were bullet wounds.
Which brings us to
actually helped America win the war.
Brings us to the title of your work, 3 Billion and Counting, which is the number of lives you think have been lost from malaria, et cetera, vector-borne disease.
Technically, it's the title comes from in National Geographic in 2007. Scientists estimate that over 3 billion, half the Earth's population. Half the people who have ever lived on Earth have died of malaria. And the World Health Organization actually estimates that it would take about $3 billion a year.
Okay, so
control the disease.
How serious was the damage caused by DDT? Because wasn't it thinning bird eggs or something like that?
No, none. It is completely safe. If you read the ruling by Judge Sweeney, it's safe to humans, health, and the environment. It has not been one single human death attributed to DDT. Now, but if you look at the stats, World Health Organization and the United Nations Environment Program today, they estimate that 3 million workers in agriculture develop severe poisoning from pesticides, and 18,000 of those people die every year. There's not been one death ever attributed to DDT.
And in a world where if some sort of crib design kills 2 kids, we ban the crib. This is a ban that's killed the billions or permitted.
Right. Well, see, what you have to get down to is the dose determines the poison. Like, for instance, probably the only bad thing about DDT is if you put it in a pond, a closed system, and then you have to put a lot of it. It can kill fish. But salt will do the same thing.
So if because I have a mosquito problem, was DDT something, because I don't remember this. Is DDT something I could go to the store and buy as an individual to like
Not
help?
Not at all. It's only produced in Hindustani Chemical in Cochin, India. We went there during the documentary and interviewed these guys. It's the last remaining place in the world. Now, see, what we're getting into here is that your tax dollars, they go to the government. The government funds anti-DDT propaganda-type studies. In fact, the Global Environment Facility has budgeted $150 million to anti-DDT research. That's a lot of money.
Now, do you have Dr. Rutledge is on the line, by the way, writer, producer, director of 3 Billion and Counting. Do you work for Dow Chemical or anything? Do you have
everyone asks that. No, I don't. I self-funded this film. And what happened is, I have a practice in Los Angeles and in Nevada. I had a lot of patients asking me how to prevent West Nile virus, and I really didn't know. I said, well, let me check into it. Well, when you start looking into that, you cannot help running across malaria because it's vector-borne or insect-borne diseases. Mm-hmm. And I saw where 500 million people were getting infected every year, and I thought, this just can't be in this day and age. So the more and more I did that, you can't not look at malaria without DDT. When I started looking at that, I grew up on a farm. My dad used DDT back at that time. He always said it was safe. I was very skeptical. And then I met with a guy up in I actually went up to San Francisco and met with Dr. Art Robinson. He was partners with Linus Pauling, who did all the famous vitamin C studies in the Linus Pauling Institute. And he said, Rutledge, I want to tell you the long and the short of this. It's pretty ugly, and this is a direct quote, but there's 50 million black, brown, and yellow babies killed by the decisions of white men in Washington.
Wow, that's a heck of a statement.
Yeah,
there.
Dr. Rutledge, and we're going to link the site for 3 Billion Counting to ArmstrongandGettyRadio.com so people can look into it. But my final question, Jack, perhaps you have more, but my final question was the year was 1969. I was a young lad in Kendall Park, New Jersey, and the mosquito foggers would go by, and me and my friends would run through that fog.
That was DDT.
Have I have no long-term memory. I black out regularly, and I can't get an erection.
He also has an arm growing out of his head.
Related? No. Sir, looking back on it, I'm horrified. Am I in danger?
Not at all. In fact, you're probably healthy from it. DDT actually induces enzymes in the liver to help the body break down toxins.
I'll be damned. Maybe he'll start drinking this stuff. Dr. Rutledge, fascinating. 3 billion and counting. Thanks for the time. Interesting. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
A cool glass of it on ice and a hot day, or maybe in the wintertime, you heat it up and put a little sugar cube in it.
Oh, maybe a little touch of brandy. I can't independently verify any of the claims he made.
No.
I know nothing about it.
Would it surprise you, though?
But
no.
3 billion people, certainly in the hundreds of millions, I mean, that's indisputable, die of vector-borne diseases. And I would like to hear the environmental risks substantiated before I sign off on the killing of that many hundreds of millions of people.
And I just hate mosquito bites. And if there's a great product out there that gets rid of mosquitoes.
See, you have a cross to bear as well. The little colored babies. And you and your mosquito bites.
If there's a great product out there that we're not using just because it's a great threat to chemical companies, that's interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Our phone number, 1-866-331-TALK. You are listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.